full muscle.
CM Sportsnet presents Sports Talk at Island Green.
Of Sports Talk at the Island Green, live from the Island Green in Westminster, Maryland. I'm Avery Newport, your host, back as always with my co-host, I guess. You're not really even a guest anymore at this point, man. You're the co-host.
Esteemed colleague.
Yeah.
There you go.
A senior assistant, like a senior analyst, like how every team has one of those. Skyler Fultz, head coach of the McDaniel Green Terror football program, joins me as always. Coach, thanks so much for coming back.
Absolutely.
Played a big game this weekend on the road against one of the top teams in Division III college football. A loss at Salisbury, number 7 ranked team in the country, 69-13, the final score for your team on the road this past weekend. Real quickly, just to start off, give me some thoughts in summation of how your team played this weekend.
I mean, anytime you're going on the road at the end of the season against a team who's now ranked number 1 in the MPI, you're going against a high-quality opponent, great talent, well-coached. I mean, their head coach has been there for 24 years, I believe. When you're playing against a team like that, you have to play extremely smart and sound football. Add in the fact that they're one of the few teams still left in the country that run the triple option. Adds in another layer to it, especially at the end of the year. And we knew it was going to be a tough, hard-fought game no matter what. They jumped on us early. We made a couple of huge mistakes, a couple of turnovers, a couple of big ones that gave them some short fields. And that made it a tough road, kind of going uphill. Offensively, we did some good things in the second half when we calmed down a little bit, especially early on in the third. But the first half, you can't fall behind that big. It's going to be a hard one going through, especially with what they do. Yeah,
exactly. We've talked the last couple of weeks about how a lot of your games have really been a tale of two halves, right? The first half, you stay with them, make some good plays here and there. The defense is able to hold them down. And then the second half, it gets away. But this game, I think, was the opposite in a lot of ways. The first half was really where Salisbury was able to run down the field and put up points in a hurry. In the second half, your offense was able to get some things going, find the end zone for the first time in a few games. Jaden Booker looked really good under center. So I think this game was a bit of a reversal, if you will, from how the last couple of games have gone. What went well for the offense, especially in the second half, finally getting on the scoreboard? Booker, putting together some good, long, sustained drives. What went well for the offense this week?
One, I'd say, obviously, we didn't have any turnovers in the second half. That's a huge key. The second part is I think we finally calmed down a little bit and played with a little bit of confidence. Leading into it, you could kind of see everyone was waiting for someone else to make the play, right? Like, I'm just going to do my job, but let someone else make that big play, turn that 5-yarder into a 20-yarder, things like that. And they kind of stopped. They said, all right, I'll be the one to do this. We had a couple of, Kyle Silver had a couple of 6-yard catches that he turned into 20-yard gains. Those are the kind of things that not only sustain a drive, but they end up being explosive plays. And anytime you can get an explosive play, your odds of scoring go up drastically. And then Jake Wagner had a huge catch on a play that was third down. They pressured, and not only did he just do his job, he ended up making a huge play out of it. We scored the next play. So everyone kind of calmed down a little bit and did their job, and we didn't make the same mistakes that we were making in the first half. Because when you went back and looked, the plays were there to be made. We watched the film earlier, and it's one guy not doing his job here, one guy's off a little bit here, and they did a good job with some of the pressure packages on third down that our guys were struggling with a little bit. We made a couple of tweaks in the second half. It wasn't as big of an issue. So I think that we just calmed down a little bit and just started playing true all 11 football on the offensive side.
I went back and watched the tape too after the game, and the offensive line certainly was a little shaky in the first half, but then they really, I think, started to find their rhythm a little bit. They opened up some holes for Jaden to run through. They gave him some time in the pocket to go through his reads and make some plays. How important is the progression of the offensive line? Because we've seen them struggle through points this season, but the way they played in the second half, the offense was really able to move the ball and sustain drives down the field. It really has to start up front, doesn't it?
I have a friend in the industry and says in Division III football, there's 3 positions you care about most: offensive line, defensive line, and quarterback. If you have those 3, you have a chance to be a really, really good football team. Our offensive line, when you think about it, we were coming into this year, and there's a couple of guys that played a bit last year. Now we've had some injuries on and off. We're starting a freshman at right tackle is playing quite a bit. Our left tackle is only a sophomore who converted halfway through last year. So there are some guys that are learning, but also the ones that have been here for a bit, they're really offensive line and quarterback are their 2 positions that are hardest when schematics change. Right? Running backs know how to run. You're just changing their footwork. Wide receivers, if you run a post in one offense, you run a post in another offense, right? You just have to learn the new terms. But a lot of the little techniques and some of the fine-tuning things are massively different on the offensive line and also a quarterback. So we knew coming into this year it was going to be they just have to get more and more comfortable with their communication, their roles, and kind of trusting that the guy next to him is going to do his job because it is a collective unit, right? There are times you're one-on-one one, but you have to trust that the guy to your right does his job and the guy to your left does his job, because all 5 of you have to work together. And you're starting to see bits and pieces where they're kind of learning from those mistakes, especially in third down with some of the blitzes and some of the pressures we're seeing. It gets a little exotic, especially in the Centennial Conference. It's a little tough, but they're definitely getting better at seeing that. So it's an exciting thing to see them start having a little more confidence in themselves.
Yeah, and not only do they have more confidence, but their confidence then leads into more confidence for the passing game, for the skill position guys to start getting into rhythm, making plays in open field. I want to get into really the quarterback situation, because I love to talk about the quarterbacks. You know me, I'm
every analyst in America.
Everybody loves to talk about the quarterbacks, but really it was a big day for everybody on the offensive side. Kyle Silver had career highs in catches and yards this weekend as well. The running game had some flashes as well, but we got to start here with Jaden Booker, who started the whole way through, completed 16 of 33 passes, 225 yards through the air. That's the second highest passing total for your team this season in any game, with a touchdown as well. He scored on a scramble on the ground as well, so he scored passing and running in this past game. Talk about his performance. How do you think he did? Do you think he was able to tune down those mistakes a little bit more and just kind of play within himself? Talk about how he was able to lead the offense this weekend.
For him, it definitely is a tale of two halves, right? When you look at the stats of it from first half to second half, it really is a huge difference. Now, him and I had to have a talk at halftime, because I just needed to calm him down a little bit, because he was seeing plays that were open, plays that could be made, but his technique was off a little bit here. He wasn't trusting the offensive line in this position, or we blew the protection in this one, and it was all starting to catch up to him a little bit. Right. I was like, your emotions can't get the best of you. You need to show up and just do your job. And sure enough, second half, took a deep breath, came out, and he did a really, really good job. And that's what you want to see when you can throw the ball, athletically you can run, you can do those things, but it's about knowing when to take off and run. Like you mentioned, his touchdown rush that he had, that was something like, it looks like more of a scramble, but it was a one-man route. It was literally, if he's covered, no one's got you go score. Yeah, and that was exactly the way it worked. Well, not quite like a run-pass option, but it was very, very similar to it, because we knew what we were going to get, and he executed and did the exact same thing that we had talked about in practice. And that's the encouraging thing, is when you're taking what you do in practice and then making it show up on the film during game time. Yeah,
I mean, that touchdown run really was wide open. There wasn't a defender within 5 yards of him. It was a 15-yard run. It wasn't like it was a 80-yard play down the field. Like, it was really well designed and perfectly blocked and executed, I would say. And I think little things like that tend to boost the confidence of the whole group, right? Like, when you have such a struggle that the offense had over the last few weeks, not being able to score and sustain long drives throughout the game, that can bring guys down a little bit, especially a lot of young guys on the offensive side. But when the offense is able to put up a couple of touchdowns late in the second half against one of the best teams in the country, a team that's undefeated still, and that has a sure shot to win a national championship down the road this year, I think that really can build up the confidence of the whole group and say, hey, we can compete against these teams. We can play against these guys, even though the final score doesn't look obviously that great. But you still made some progress. You still made some strides, and I think the offense can really build upon this going into such a tough opponent this week against Hopkins.
I mean, that was our challenge to him. I talked to him last week after the game, and I was like, we need just to play with a little bit more confidence. You guys need to trust what you're doing. You've been in this now. You're not all freshmen. You kind of know what you're supposed to do. Let's start having a little bit more confidence in what we're trying to do. And I think we had a good week of practice going in. If you look at the first half, again, like I said before, with the score, opening kickoff, they start with the ball on our side. That doesn't help. We had the 2 turnovers that led to them starting with the ball inside our 30. We basically spotted them 21 points, right? And when you're playing a really, really good offense, no matter what they do schematically, you can't spot them anything. Yeah. And we didn't help our defense with that. We didn't give ourselves a chance. And then when you went back and looked today in the first half, there were the same plays that we were doing in the second half. They were open in the first half. It was there. Like, we're talking to the guys, like, just trust, everyone do your job and we'll be fine. And sure enough, they all still believed, and they went out and they played a good second half.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the defense really shored up too in the second half. We can talk about the first half ad nauseum, and it doesn't really get anywhere. It's not progressing in the right direction. But in the second half, you showed a lot of improvement on the defensive side as well. And I think the defense kind of calm down and regain their focus. And against a rushing attack like Salisbury, which is the second-ranked rushing attack in the nation, averaging well over 300 rushing yards per game on the ground, it's got to be a pretty daunting task, right? Especially in the first half when get a couple of turnovers, they're able to score in a couple of big runs down the field. The defense, I think, really shored up in the second half and was able to slow down their run game too.
I mean, again, it started with true complementary football. We didn't give them any short fields in the second half, right? You're making them earn it, and especially an offense like that. Like, they want to try to go 90, but it's hard. And you really need to back them up and try to get them into some third and longs. Like, if you look in the second half, we made some good plays on first and second down, got them into third and long, and there's nothing they could do because they're not built to throw the football that way. Right. And again, it is very difficult to go against this offense without practicing it until the week of. It's very difficult to go against this offense later in the year when you're already low on scout team numbers. You're trying to just be able to practice the best you can. And it's a complete difference than what you're used to. Yeah. So it's that next step, that next layer of just learning. But again, it's a true team sport. Special teams didn't help either side. Offense didn't help the defense. So that's how you end up getting a full game that looks that way. But like you said, when you get to the second half, you calm down, you start doing your job, doing your responsibilities. It's also nice when you're kicking the ball off or when you are punting, they're ending up on their side, and the defense can really kind of calm down, and then they bend, don't break. Yeah,
and they have more room to work with too. I think how difficult was it to go up against a true triple option offense? True triple option offense, like you mentioned. I mean, it's so rare nowadays, especially at the D3 level, to have a team that really only does throw the ball maybe 3 or 4 times a game, and you have 5 or 6 different guys getting carries at any different time. You mentioned that it's difficult to practice against that in just 1 week. You don't have to play 3 or 4 teams a year anymore that run that classic, Naval Academy, Georgia Tech triple option offense. What is it like to try and prepare against that in such a short time frame? And how do you think it compares to practicing against a standard, pro style offense that you've mostly seen for most of this year?
I mean, it's a true quantity of reps, right? Like, you only have X amount of practice plays you can run during the week. So how many can you actually get to prepare? Because you like to think you know exactly what they're going to do, but every team has different wrinkles that they come in with. Sure. So there's always different things that you're not quite prepared for. They saw something maybe that you did last year against them and things like that. So it is going to be difficult to go through. But that's why, like, against teams like this, that's why it's a team effort, right? Like, there's a reason why you don't see triple option teams that really get to the national championship too much, because when you really get to that point and when all talent is equal, if you're in that situation where they got to throw the football, it's really, really tough. And I mean, it's kind of the flip side. It's one of the reasons why their defense has kind of struggled a lot this year at different times, because all they go against is the triple option, right? So, like, you're really, really good. Like, we're used to going against what our defense shows us, right? Like, they're used to going against the triple option. It's just about what you prepare for. So it is really, really difficult. It's challenging. And it's a lot more mental than a lot of people realize.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a great point, too, that you make. If you're practicing against that offense all year, you're used to stopping it because that's what you're familiar with. But then when you get into a game scenario, it's an entirely different thing. And when their defense is used to stopping the run, they give up big pass plays. I mean, the Salisbury defense has given up a number of high-scoring outputs from the other team many times this year, and that might end up being their Achilles heel, because if they can't throw the ball down the field, if it's a late game, if it's a one-score game late and they need to get, a third and long conversion or something, they only pass the ball a handful of times a game. They might not be able to get it in that scenario. So I think in a lot of ways the triple option is a fun, offensive system. A lot of guys get touches, and the rushing numbers are huge, every single game. But when it comes to the playoffs, when you're playing against the very best of the best that Division III football has to offer, if you can't make those big plays here and there that every other team at that level can make, that might kill you in the end. And I think that could certainly, rear its ugly head for Salisbury later down the road. But they're still 9-0. They're still undefeated. That rushing attack is really lethal. And it's tough for anybody to stop, especially for McDaniel, but anyone, even with even really tip-top defenses can still struggle with such an attack. Like
I
that.
mean, you look at this year, the Johns Hopkins game, the Ursinus game, like they played some quality opponents.
And they've beaten those teams.
But you look at the totality of those games, they made plays at the right spot. They came away with some turnovers. The special teams made some big plays. And again, we could be saying all this, and Salisbury could run through the playoffs because they are a very, very good, talented team. But when you look, even look at what Army and Navy are doing right now in the Division I football, right? Like you can run these styles if you have the right kids, and they're a really, really good program.
Yeah. How much you mentioned a little bit about the mental aspect. How much of making those big plays late in a close game is a mental thing versus a scheme thing? Just a guy like deciding that he's going to go out and make the big play to win the game. Is that more of a mental thing, or is it something that, it's something that you can't coach, like a guy just has that innate ability in him to be clutch at the right time? Or is it more just a combination of other factors, just, correct circumstances, a good defense that you can exploit? How much of the clutch gene is really a real thing in your mind?
It's a real thing when it comes more towards the confidence of making that play, right? Like you can scheme up everything you want, but at the end of the day, it's one guy versus one guy. Right now, I would like to have the guy that's more confident than the other because that does play a factor. And again, I was a psychology major. I'm a big mental person. I believe a lot in it. And again, I think there is something to be said about the best of the best in sports have a different mental aspect. They have a different mental aptitude. They have a different self-belief than a lot of others, right? And that does come into a factor. And like we all talk about, football is a million little things that go into one play, one game, and all that. But at the end of the day, it's a million little one-on-one battles. And you have to have, especially later in the game, when fatigue comes involved, the score, if you're having one of those games that's up, down, different things going all directions.
Injuries.
Like I was telling you earlier about JB, like his first half to his second half, all that was mental. Yeah. That was him just calming down and playing in a different mindset than what he was playing in the first half. Yeah. And that does really, really much have a big factor in how people react, especially in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I think I've noticed that a lot with the team this year, is that the mental aspect has been a hurdle for them to jump over. And then when they do it, you see the potential, right? You see the flashes here and there. Sometimes it's early in the first half. Sometimes in this game, good example, it comes in the second half, in the third quarter, in the fourth quarter, when you start to get some drives sustained down the field. You get to get comfortable with what the defense is throwing at you. I think your guys really begin to calm down and to play, to their ability when they have that time to adjust to being in a new environment, being in a game, not being in a practice. I think, of course, as you mentioned, the mental aspect is a huge part of all sports, not just football, but especially for your guys. Once they begin to get comfortable and get the jitters out of the way, they really start to show their flashes and potential.
You're absolutely right with that. And I think I wouldn't say it's more jitters. I think it goes back to confidence, right? Like over half of our team did not win a game last year. And I don't care what you're dealing with, that does take a toll. And it's about building the confidence in what you're doing. Like we've sat on here for how many weeks now, and we talk about how well our defense has been playing. Yeah. That's them making the choice from last year to this year to continually get better. And you saw their confidence grow and grow and grow and grow. Yeah. That's what we're really trying to do on the offensive side. And when you start one piece at a time, starts getting more confidence, start having a little bit more belief, start learning to respond in different ways, right? Not having the negative response, the woe is me, oh, here it goes again, those kinds of things, right? Once you start getting that to disappear, then you don't have to worry about it, because then you're only set to one dial, right? Whether you're cooking or using any sort of machine, right? You have a million little dials to turn and work on, right? But the goal is to get to the point where you just set that confidence dial all the way up, and it never moves. You never lose doubt. You don't lose the faith. It just stays there the entire time. And that's what you try to have to get to. And you can start seeing it with guys in the team. Like there are certain guys that their play, their practice, their preparation, that dial's just turned and it hasn't left, right? And the goal is to get 100 guys on the team all to be that way. Yeah. And it takes some time to do that.
Yeah. It's like the classic scene in This Is Spinal Tap where they turn the dial up to 11, right? It's the same thing for
I didn't know I was
confidence.
getting This Is Spinal Tap reference tonight, but I
Well,
like it.
as soon as you mentioned dial and turning up, that's boom, right where my brain
I
goes
respect
to.
it. I like it.
Little movie reference here on Sports Talk at the Island Green. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap this segment up quickly. We'll go ahead and preview the final game of the regular season this year at home, back on the hill in front of the fans at Gill Stadium against Johns Hopkins, maybe your biggest rival in the Centennial Conference, one of the great rivals in D3 college football. Just explain to me how you're feeling going into the last game of the season, reflecting on your first year as head coach of your alma mater, some positives, some negatives, some things you're looking forward to about playing Hopkins, and how you're feeling as the season comes to a close.
I mean, it's always bittersweet at the end of any season. It doesn't matter if you're facing a conference championship. It doesn't matter if you're winless, right? There's always a sense of bittersweet because there's a group of players that more likely than not will never play this game again, right? And I don't care if you're coaching high school football, college, you always have that feeling. And we have a select group that has gone through a lot of different things the last couple of years. They didn't ask for it, right? They came here, they recruited here, they loved the school, they wanted to go through, and they chose to stuck it out. So, like I mentioned to the team earlier today, I don't care if we're playing a community college, I don't care if we're playing Johns Hopkins and it's a rivalry game. At the end of the day, it's senior day, right? Yeah. And your job on senior day is to play your hardest for those guys because they'll never get to play again. And that way, next year, if you're a junior now and you're a senior next year, the guys do it for you like you did it for them. And then it just creates a cycle of love and appreciation for the fact that when you get to that last game of the year, everyone's going to crank it up a notch because there's a group of guys that have been through so much that you're incredibly proud of and you love how much they've done. Like I told, I can't wait to talk to these guys at the end of the week and be like, I wish I had you guys for a couple more years. I wish you could see what we're working on, where we're going, what we're doing. But my ultimate goal is yes, we didn't win as much as we would have liked to this year, but in a couple of years from now, you come back from homecoming, you sit there and you see what this program has become. In that moment, you'll know why you were supposed to be here at this time, right? That's what it's all about, and creating those memories that you'll never forget. So, like I said, it's Hopkins. It's always a rivalry. We're playing at noon. It's always something, but at the end of the day, it's senior day, and that's more important than any team, any program you're going to play.
You touched on it a little bit, and I want to see if you can elaborate on it a little more. What specifically about this senior class impresses you about them and their work ethic, how they've been able to be a part of this program for 4 years? What stands out to you most about these seniors?
When you're talking to high school guys and you're recruiting them, you're trying to tell them, like, this is what we are about. This is what we're trying to accomplish on the field. This is what we're trying to help you accomplish off the field. So when you leave here, one, we know you're going to get an amazing education at a great institution such as McDaniel, but we have these goals that we want to accomplish, right? They didn't ask to go through a coaching change. They didn't ask to go through an interim head coach last year. These guys came in with a much larger class, and there's only a select few of them left that decided to stick it out through all this, right? Like when I was hired last year, I told them, I'm like, you guys didn't choose me, right? I wasn't here when you were recruited. You didn't pick me. At the end of the day, I picked you. But no matter what, we all picked each other because I went to McDaniel the same way you guys did, right? And this is something special. Regardless of what happens, I'm incredibly proud of what they did. Last spring, we had meetings as we were, basically when I sat down with everyone, right? My first week on the job, I sat down and said, I'm going to meet with every single player that's on the roster for at least 15 minutes. I want to talk to them, just kind of get their feelings and everything. And what I kept going to them is, guys, I know this is hard for me to ask. It's hard to do, but I need you to give me a little bit of trust to start, and I'll earn the rest of it. What we're going to do is a little bit different. What we're going to ask you to do is, like, there's going to be some changes. I know you've been through a lot of changes. Just give me a little bit. And not one of those guys blinked an eye. Every single one said, I got you. Like, let's do it. This is our last shot. This is what we're going to do. And that leaves a level of respect in your heart that you're appreciative. Like, as long as I am here at McDaniel, I will always remember this group that we had because they went through a whole lot And this year was a whole lot extra, but at the end of the day, they're not going to remember if they were 1-9, if they were 2-8. They're going to remember the group of guys that they were with. They're going to remember their teammates. They're going to remember all these little individual moments. And then when I see them walk across the stage at graduation, it's going to be even more special because now I got to know them for one whole year. And would I have liked to have been 4 years? Absolutely. But that 1 year still means I'm connected to them and I'm appreciative of them.
Yeah. And it's a great life lesson too, right? Perseverance, like fighting through challenges, getting dealt a hand that you didn't expect, you didn't ask for, you didn't want, but still working through it anyway. Like those are all great things that you can apply off the football field as well. It's a great, great relationship between life and sports, right? Like so many of the things that you can apply on the football field apply in life as well. And I think that's a great lesson that hopefully the senior class will be sent off with for the rest of their lives to have.
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of the game of football. That's the beauty of McDaniel College, is that you're a part of something incredibly special. And they're entering into an alumni group that is extremely special, devout, caring, supportive, networking. I mean, any different adjective, noun, verb, anything you want to use to explain. Like I can pick up my phone right now and call a bunch of my teammates. And if there's something I needed somewhere help, that's what's special about this place. And they're taking one step closer to being a part of that part.
Yeah, that's awesome. Really great to see. Well, big game, obviously, this weekend. I mean, Hopkins is Hopkins. They are the cream of the crop in the Centennial. I'm sure Gill Stadium is going to be packed, rocking with fans to watch one of the great rivalries in the conference's history and in Division III football. So very excited to see how the team turns out in their final game, to see how the seniors go out on a high note to end their careers at McDaniel. A lot of positive things to look forward to, not just about this game, but about the team as a whole and about where the program is going. I think you've got them in the right direction. And, obviously didn't turn out how you wanted in your first year, but Rome wasn't built in a day, right? The classic saying. There are a lot of things that, you know about the team now that you can work on and build on for the years ahead. So a lot of positive things on the horizon on the Hill, and I'm excited to see where the program goes under your leadership.
Wins and lessons, never losses.
That's right. That's right. I got to get like a plaque or something and put that on my wall in my office.
I'll give them all to you, Avery.
Cool. Awesome. We'll make it happen. Skyler Fultz, as always, my guest. Thank you so much for coming on today, and best of luck this weekend.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Go Green Terror.
We'll take a short break on Sports Talk at the Island Green and return in just a moment with Danielle Prietz, Liberty High School's girls soccer coach. More to come after this on Sports Talk at the Island Green.
Welcome to Island Green, Westminster. The Pub and Grill offers a variety of food in a family-friendly atmosphere. Live music, private suites, miniature golf. Learn more at islandgreenwestminster.com. Island Green, Westminster.
I'm Danielle Inglesby, and I interned at the Community Media Center during my senior year at South Carroll High School. I was interested in the CMC because of the knowledge and experience that I would gain and to help narrow down my field for what I want to work in the future. During my internship, I learned how to operate graphics for New Blue for our sports productions and to edit various projects on Premiere. I recommend the Community Media Center for anyone interested in studio art because it definitely gave me an advantage for the future, and I learned a lot and had a ton of fun.
Hey there, I'm Pat Stetzer.
And I'm Michael Duffy, inviting you to join us for The Score and more.
Each week we'll talk about high school sports in Carroll County. We'll share information about upcoming games, highlight coaches and athletes, and much more.
We'll even try to have a little fun along the way. Don't miss The Score and More podcast, presented by CM Sportsnet.
The Score and More Sports podcast is available online at carrollmediacenter.org and on a variety of podcast channels.
Brought to you by Farmers and Merchants Bank.
Every Wednesday at CM Sportsnet, it's Game On. Tune in for a look at Carroll County sports scene, boys and girls soccer, high school football, and Carroll Link sports action. Hi, I'm Pat Stetzer. Join me as we preview upcoming games, talk with the coaches, and bring you exclusive reports you won't see anywhere else. Plus, each week we'll unveil CM Sportsnet's Athlete of the Week. Don't miss CM Sportsnet's Game On, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. We've got you covered.
We're back on Sports Talk at the Island Green, segment 2, coming up here with the head coach of Liberty High School's girls soccer team, Danielle Prietz. Danielle, thanks so much for joining us today.
Sure.
This is really cool to have you on.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. It's great to have you on because we've mostly covered high school football on the show for the last few weeks, but we like to get into a couple different sports, especially now since the fall season is beginning to wind down. We're in the state playoffs, and your team for Liberty is in the state championship for girls soccer. So just tell me how exciting that is to be at the state championship and how your win was in the state semifinal.
It's super exciting, actually. So Liberty High School hasn't been in the state final for girls soccer since 1996 was the last time they went. So it's been 28 years. So it's just super exciting. The girls always had that goal in mind. Last year we missed it by, 2 games, which was a tough loss. So I think the motivation from that just stemmed on to this year, and it was the focus the entire season. So it went well. I mean, we game planned for going into that state semifinal game on Friday. We watched a lot of film on Northern Garrett and took practice into our own hands of just having drills of what Northern Garrett might possibly do, what defense they could play. So a lot of strategy went into practice and planning for Friday's game. And after we scored the first goal, I was like, all right, we got this. Like, in my head, like, I know this is going to be our game.
Yeah.
And it was a 6-1 final, and turned out in our favor, and we're heading there next Saturday, or this Saturday.
Awesome. Congratulations. Great
Thank you.
win. But you did mention a little bit how your team last year fell short. They made the state tournament, but lost in the quarterfinals. So how much, you did touch on it a little bit. I want to expand on it here. How much did that loss in particular motivate your team, not just in this past game, in the semifinal win over North Garrett, but over the course of the whole season? Were you constantly thinking about it over the summer, coming into the school year, trying to prepare to get further than you did last year?
Yeah, I think that's always the, next level of thinking, I guess. You can't dwell on it, but it does sit there, and like how we lost when we were leading, just it doesn't go away.
Yeah.
And my team is very senior heavy. I have 14 seniors, so a lot of them were on the team last year, if not all of them. That they also knew, and it was we make a board beginning of each season with our scrimmages and our regular season schedule, and we take it a game at a time, and we fill it out every practice, and it was game by game, and it was always, this is what we're going to do. And just like Coach Skyler said, it's a lesson.
Yeah.
We take it as a learning opportunity. If we didn't play well, it's how can we fix it? Right. And it's always, what can we do better? So even if we won a game, it was like there was something that we could do to improve it and make it better. That's what we were going to do. Just because when you're on top, it doesn't mean you're on top. Because in soccer, it can turn in an instinct and quickly. The worst lead in soccer is 2-0. And after that, so you just try to, in that game mindset of last year, we just knew that we just wanted to go. Yeah. And when you take it a game at a time, it kind of eases it instead of just thinking, this is our goal and it's end all be all. But it was a game at a time, and we just planned every day. Yeah,
because sometimes when you get into that big picture mindset, right, of already looking past all your regular season teams, everybody in the county, looking to the states, then you might take a step back. You might not focus on the teams that you actually got to beat in the next game, and they might take advantage of that mindset. So that's a great way to approach it, I think. Not looking, having it in the rearview mirror, right? Being able to see that that's the goal where you want to get to eventually, but also not forgetting that you still got to play Liberty, you still got to play Century, you still got to play, South Carroll, all the other teams in the league. Those are the most important things that you got to focus on from game to game. You can think about the big goals ahead, but let that be a motivator and not just the only thing you think about going forward. It's funny that you mentioned the most dangerous score in soccer is 2-0 because our women's soccer team at McDaniel was in the conference semifinals this past weekend, and they were losing to Franklin and Marshall 2-0. And then we scored a goal with about 5.5 minutes left to go in the second half. And I'm like, all right, well, it's game time now. Like, anything can happen, 2-0. Like, they think they're comfortable. They think they got it in the bag. And then all of a sudden, we come out firing in the last couple of minutes and make it a close game. So it's funny that you mentioned that. I just wanted to make the comparison there, because it really is. They let their guard down a little bit, and we got right back into the game and made it close. But I want to mention in the first question I asked you, you said that Liberty has not been this far in the state tournament in 28 years, which is a long time, longer than I have been alive. So to put things in perspective, so how does it feel for you personally as a coach to lead your team to the state final and take them somewhere where they haven't been in many years, since any of your players have been alive, like to reach such an important milestone that your school hasn't been to in many, many years? What's it like personally for you as a coach to achieve that goal?
It's funny you say that, because I graduated in 95 from South Carroll. So
didn't mean to age you there, I'm sorry.
But being with that said, like, I've been a player in the county.
Sure.
And when we were then, it was always, we were really good, and we couldn't just get past a certain team, and it was
Right.
a struggle for 4 years. And for me, I have a great group of girls that are senior heavy, and everyone on the team, from my seniors to the lone sophomore, everyone's a leader. And when you have such good leadership and everyone motivates each other and pushes each other, it makes my job easy.
Yeah.
So being able to get this far with this great group of girls, and some that I've had on that club team, the
Right.
Explosions,
Yeah.
there are no words.
Yeah.
It's an emotional, exciting time for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great that you mentioned that group of seniors as well. 14 of them. I mean, that makes up a big chunk of the team. How much did those players in particular make an impact? Not just scoring or passing or in goal or anything like that, but with those leadership qualities that you mentioned. I mean, being a senior, you've had 4 years. You play JV, you play on the varsity team, so you've seen a lot of things in those 4 years. How much did that experience help your group this season?
Yeah, so we have a motto that are on the back of our shirts, and it says, "One team, one goal, #team." This is something that we led with last year, knowing that we are always a team, no matter where we are, in school, off the field, hanging out with each other. With the seniors, they had such drive and push that allowed everyone to be on their backs. The positivity of our team is something that we stress all the time, and they were able to bring it all the time, and they were able to, if practice was a little slow, they'd be like, "Come on, guys, like, we only have 30 minutes left," or, it was always something being said, and it was always positive, and they pushed each other. And when you have everyone that's helping each other and everyone pushing each other, you can say you have a team, and the leadership from everyone makes that everything at practice go well.
Yeah.
And everything in games go well. And the one biggest thing, like, for me, is halftime speeches or before a game. They take ownership and they want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And halftime during a game, I'll give my speech, my other coaches will give theirs, but I want their input. I value their input. So they see stuff that I don't see.
Yeah.
And so having all of that leadership around is really beneficial for our team.
Yeah, it sure sounds like it. And I think when you have such a great leadership culture like that, it speaks to just how successful the program as a whole is, right? Not just the coaches, not just the assistants or the alumni or the boosters or anything like that, but the players involved as well. They have a say, they have an impact, they have a voice. All those things kind of have to blend together to create a culture of success. And I think, you guys fit the bill absolutely for having a successful culture, especially in the win column. The last couple of years, you've improved by 3 wins every season. You had 8 wins in 2022, 11 last year, and 14 this year. That's a really incredible number. So explain to me how your culture has been able to improve over the last couple of years and lead to more and more wins each of the last 3 seasons.
It's the bond and leadership and the unity the team brings together. I think when you tell as a coach, when you give them the opportunities to say, hey, can you run a drill today? Or I'm putting trust in you guys to do A, B, and C. Yeah. I think each year the team just got closer. Yeah. And when you can trust each other on and off the field and building the bond that they did, it goes a long way. It motivates each other to be better each year and to be successful. And, honestly, going into this year's county, we knew the county was going to be tough.
Yeah.
Everybody in this county has great players and great teams and great coaches. So, again, it just goes back to taking a game at a time. And so for us, it was a day by day. We checked off our board, and it was like we knew what we wanted to do. So, from the past years, we just started the board last year, but the seniors took the ownership and knew what we were trying to accomplish. And I think when we set goals, and each player sets goals, and we have team goals, it brings on opportunities for everyone to feel something and allows for the wins to happen. We are playing great soccer, and everyone's involved. Yeah. From our goalie to our strikers, everyone plays a part on no matter who's on the field.
Yeah. You mentioned that Carroll County is always such a tough girls soccer league, and especially so in this season. You guys went 3-1-2 in Carroll County this year. Your only loss came to Century, which was county champion. But explain to me how the Carroll County teams this year, playing through the county schedule, got you prepared to play the best of the best competition in the state playoffs.
Yeah. So, again, it goes back to taking it a game at a time.
Right.
And you always know who your rivalries are. Right. Westminster's always a big game for us. And last year we lost to them, so come out with a tie. We were like, all right, but what can we do better? So for the next game, what can we do better? So whether it was Man Valley, I think next, we knew how strong they were going to be, and watching film, and then you take what we have to do. And to come out with a 1-0 win there, even at Blandair at a 4:00 game, because it rained, and it took a different opportunity there for us. So to get that win, it was huge. And then moving on to the next one, which is South Carroll, which again is in our region and a big rival, and you're there. And it was a 1-1 tie. So again, we take the tie, look at film, and we have to play them again. Most likely, we have to see them again. So what could we do differently in that game opposed to what we did? And you know what? Sometimes the tie is what had to motivate us to move forward. Yeah. Or the loss to Century, it's soccer. So you get an opportunity, they score. We still played hard, and we never gave up. And we took shots, and they just didn't fall that day. Yeah. So, again, it is soccer. Yeah. But it's fun to have our county rivals. It's fun to play these games. The kids love them. They're playing against friends they grew up with or players they played with. Yeah. And so it makes it fun. Yeah. You have to join the opportunity and just realize each game's going to be a battle. Yeah. No matter who you're playing in Carroll County, and you hope your team comes out on top, and if not, what can you do to be better?
Yeah. Yeah, you are obviously very familiar with Carroll County, having coached Liberty for over a decade now, and having played your high school ball at South Carroll. So you're very familiar with all these teams. How did having that familiarity, playing locally in the area, playing for South Carroll, how did that help you transition into a coach for Liberty, just knowing the area so well, having played here during your high school days?
Yeah, it's wild when, as a player, when I, was at South Carroll, to whoa, I'm going to go coach against who? Yeah. My rival? Right. I've loved every minute of it. Yeah. You are aware of the fields. You know what to expect because, we don't go to turf. So we still played on grass.
Good old grass.
And in the same stadiums. I think my very first couple of years, it was still hard to get used to, wow, I was here once. I did all of this.
Sure.
But I've been very blessed with the teams that I've had at Liberty and all the girls that I've had. It's been a great opportunity, and I enjoy coaching so much. I mean, overall, it's my 25th year coaching, so it's been a decade.
We'll keep it at that, just a decade. So, wow, that's great. Well, are there any other things that you're looking forward to the most about playing in the state championship this week? What's the game plan looking like for your team, the practice schedule? What are some keys for you guys to be able to come out with a victory this weekend?
So I think it's just basically game planning like we did last week. We watched film. I actually went to the game Saturday to see the other two teams play. And I think it's just we are going to probably be at the same pace we were last week. We moved to Western Regional, which is always helps because we're back on turf. Yeah. And using strategies and plans and what we're going to do to move into Saturday's game against Mardella. And we got to play our game. Bottom line is if we are us, I think we'll be okay. But it's up to them.
Yeah, right.
As I say.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you never know. Like, again, the ball takes some odd bounces sometimes. It can deflect off the post or whatever. The wind can push a free ball. All these different things can play a factor into how the game turns out. And sometimes you just have to have lady luck on your side. And if that's the way it works, then you can win a championship. Sometimes that's the difference between winning and losing. But I think most of the time, of course, it's being able to execute your game plan, having every player buy into your goal, to your, what you're preaching and what you're saying, and having everyone play as a team, not having someone do something different or deviate from the strategy. It all has to be one cohesive effort. And that's what it takes to win a state championship. And I hope for you guys, for Carroll County, that you're able to get it done and, break something that hasn't happened here in almost 30 years, is to win a state championship. That'd be really cool to see, especially in Carroll County.
Yeah, it would be great to bring it back to Carroll County and being in the 1A, but just, for Liberty High School.
Yeah.
I know our girls today at practice were like, we made it. Like, it still hasn't sunk in for a lot of them.
Yeah.
And you don't even think about that it's going to be 3 months that we've been playing soccer since we started August 13th. We're tryouts, and, it'll be a 3-month mark. And obviously the weather helps because it's still nice out.
Sure.
But you don't even realize that you're still playing soccer at this point. Like, you're just having fun, and what's next.
Yeah.
And they want to bring it back just as much as the community wants us to bring it back. So it's exciting times.
Yeah, certainly is. Really exciting. Well, Coach, this has been great. Thank you so much for coming on today to talk about your team, and just been great to hear your insight as a coach into how you approach something like this, because this is a state title, man. This is not just a regular season win. This is a big game for your program. It would mean so much to Liberty and to Carroll County for a state championship. So really cool to hear your insight, and I wish you guys luck this weekend.
Thank you.
Very cool. Danielle Prietz, head coach of the Liberty High School girls soccer team, playing in the state championship game this weekend. Thank you so much for coming on today, and best of luck.
Thank you so much.
We'll take a short break and come back. I'll tell you everything you need to know about all the sports happening in the Maryland sports scene for segment 3, our final segment of Sports Talk at the Island Green. Back after this.
Welcome to Island Green, Westminster. The Pub and Grill offers a variety of food in a family-friendly atmosphere. Live music, private suites, miniature golf. Learn more at islandgreenwestminster.com. Island Green, Westminster.
I'm Danielle Inglesby, and I interned at the Community Media Center during my senior year at South Carroll High School. I was interested in the CMC because of the knowledge and experience that I would gain, and to help narrow down my field for what I want to work in the future. During my internship, I learned how to operate graphics for New Blue for our sports productions and to edit various projects on Premiere. I recommend the Community Media Center for anyone interested in studio art because it definitely gave me an advantage for the future, and I learned a lot and had a ton of fun.
Hey there, I'm Pat Stetzer.
And I'm Michael Duffy, inviting you to join us for The Score and more.
Each week we'll talk about high school sports in Carroll County. We'll share information about upcoming games, highlight coaches and athletes, and much more.
We'll even try to have a little fun along the way. Don't miss the Score and More podcast presented by CM Sportsnet.
The Score and More Sports Podcast is available online at carrollmediacenter.org and on a variety of podcast channels.
Brought to you by Farmers and Merchants Bank.
Every Wednesday at CM Sportsnet, it's Game On. Tune in for a look at Carroll County sports scene, boys and girls soccer, high school football, and Carroll Link sports action. Hi, I'm Pat Stetzer. Join me as we preview upcoming games, talk with the coaches, and bring you exclusive reports you won't see anywhere else. Plus, each week we'll unveil CM Sportsnet's Athlete of the Week. Don't miss CM Sportsnet's Game On, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. We've got you covered.
Just me at the table. We're going to wrap this up pretty quickly because we're approaching the top of the hour here at the Island Green, but got a lot of Maryland sports to cover here in the last few minutes of the show. Of course, the Ravens winning a barn burner last Thursday night against the Bengals at the bank, 35-34. Final score in that one, the Ravens erased a 21-7 deficit in the third quarter and scored 3 times in the fourth to steal a win against the Bengals, a heated rival in the AFC North. Lamar Jackson, 25 of 33, 290 yards through the air, 4 touchdowns, including an 84-yard pass to Tylan Wallace, who, man, really wish I would have picked him up in fantasy this week. If I had known that Tylan Wallace was going to have 115 yards, a great catch, that sure would have helped. Gone a long way for my fantasy squad. But, man, the Ravens' offense is just spectacular. I mean, Lamar Jackson is having a better season than he's had in either of his 2 MVP campaigns to this point. He's on pace for more yards per game, more passing touchdowns, higher passer rating, just across the board. Lamar is having a better season in the 2 years that he won the league MVP as the best player in the NFL. So I don't think it's a stretch to say that Lamar is the best quarterback in the NFL right now, bar none. I mean, the offense is just absolutely clicking through the air, on the ground. They can beat you every which way imaginable. It's just really fun to watch him fully ascend into, the full top echelon of quarterbacks. And I think he's making his case as being one of the best quarterbacks of all time at this point in his career. I mean, he's already won 2 MVPs. He led a team to a 14-win season a few years ago, won the Heisman Trophy in college. I mean, he always plays to the best level, regardless of the opponent. And, man, I love watching him play. I mean, he's changed the game in a lot of ways. He's really redefined the mobile quarterback as a position, right? I mean, he was able to rush for 1,000 yards in a season, becoming only the 2nd quarterback in history to do so, just redefining what a quarterback can do and what a quarterback is capable of in the NFL week in and week out. The playoff success, of course, hasn't gotten there yet for the Ravens under Lamar, but just in terms of the raw regular season numbers, he's among the best the league has ever seen, and I'm more than comfortable saying that at this point, that Lamar's on a Hall of Fame trajectory. I mean, 2 MVPs, and the guy's still in his mid-20s. He's still got the prime of his career in front of him. It's just brilliant. He's so fun to watch. The Ravens just absolutely hit a home run drafting him back in 2018, and they haven't skipped a beat. It's really fun to watch this offense play. The defense, of course, still leaves a lot to be desired. I mean, Jamar Chase has just absolutely scorched them in 2 games this year. Chase has 457 receiving yards against the Ravens in 2 games this year. That's an NFL record for one player against another team in the same season. The secondary's had a ton of issues this year, and it's not going to get better because Kyle Hamilton, all-pro safety, Pro Bowl safety for the Ravens, injured his ankle against the Bengals on Thursday night. Coach Harbaugh said that it was just a light ankle sprain and that he shouldn't miss significant time, but of course, still something to monitor as we get into the second half of the season here with one of the best defenders in football. But the Ravens getting a much-needed win against a division rival, certainly going to help them when they travel to Pittsburgh to play the Steelers, the division-leading Steelers, 7-2 record so far this season. Pittsburgh's got a half game up against the Ravens in the AFC North standings. The Ravens are 7-3 right now, so just a half game behind Pittsburgh in the division, but it's on the road against the Steelers. Pittsburgh swept the Ravens last year. It's just been a struggle against the Steelers for the last couple of seasons. I remember last year, the game in Pittsburgh, the Ravens blew a lead late in the second half in that game, so always a formidable team to play, a tough environment as always. The defense is phenomenal, as is usual for a Pittsburgh team. Russell Wilson has taken over the starting job for the Steelers offense at quarterback, and they really look, I mean, they're getting it done. You know, sometimes it's ugly, sometimes they squeak out with a close win here and there, but Russell Wilson's been doing the job. I mean, he took over for Justin Fields from the first half of the season, and they haven't missed a beat with Russ under center. So that might be the biggest test the Ravens have this year. I mean, they've played a tough schedule to this point. It's not going to get any easier. I mean, just looking at the last half of their games this season, they're on the road at Pittsburgh this week. Then they travel to L.A. to play the Chargers, who have really turned it around under Coach Jim Harbaugh this year. Then they host the Eagles, who are 7-2. They've won 5 straight games. The following week, they're on the road against the Giants, who might be the worst team in the NFC, so maybe a little bit of an easier game. But again, the Ravens have played down to their competition. They've lost to the Raiders and the Browns this year, two of the worst teams in the league. Then hosting the Steelers, again, as we mentioned, 7-2 record. Then traveling to Houston to play the Texans with C.J. Stroud, one of the best young quarterbacks in the league. And then ending the season at home against the Browns. So a lot of winning teams, a lot of winning records in those last couple of games this season for the Ravens. So it's going to be a tough stretch of games for Baltimore. They really had to win this game against Cincinnati to confirm their standing as one of the best teams in the NFL. But we'll wrap up with Ravens talk right there. The Maryland Terrapins on the road at the number 1 team in the country, the Oregon Ducks, this past weekend in Eugene. The Terps losing 39-18 on the road against the Ducks. Billy Edwards, 22 of 44 through the air, 206 passing yards, had a touchdown, but also turned the ball over 3 times, 2 interceptions, and losing the ball on a strip sack fumble that was returned by the Ducks for a 62-yard touchdown. Ty Felton had 7 catches for 72 yards. He's still top 6 in the country in receiving yards this year. A surefire NFL draft pick is Ty Felton, in my opinion. The turnovers have just been absolutely killer for the Terps offense this year. They have the best passing offense in the Big Ten in terms of just raw yards per game. Billy Edwards averaging over 300 yards per game passing this year, but the turnovers have killed them, and we've seen it in the last couple of games. The loss to Minnesota, the loss to Oregon, the turnovers have really made the difference on the offensive side. The defense has just not been good either, giving up 29 points a game this year. That's the second worst figure among any teams in the Big Ten. So the defense really has to clean it up. The offense has to keep the ball. They can't turn the ball over against these great teams in the Big Ten. Just a tough loss for Maryland on the road. They dropped to 4-5, a game under 500 on the year. Have to mention that Dylan Gabriel, Oregon's quarterback, broke the NCAA record for total career touchdowns with 179, breaking Case Keenum's record of 178. He's got 147 passing touchdowns throughout his 6-year college career, but he's still 8 passing touchdowns behind Keenum's FBS record with 155 touchdown passes. He's still got a way to go to catch the all-time leader for touchdown passes in college football among any of the 3 NCAA divisions. That record is held by Shepherd University's very own Tyson Bagent, had 159 touchdown passes in his career with the Shepherd Rams in Division II. I got to shout him out. I'm a Shepherd alum, love Shepherd football, so got to mention Tyson whenever I get a chance. Maryland has not defeated the number 1 team in the country since beating UCLA back in 1955. So Maryland football got a long way to go to get back to national relevance. They host Rutgers this week in College Park. Rutgers is 5-4. Rutgers has had a couple of close wins, but also a couple of huge blowout losses. So I think Maryland will have a chance to get on track against a Scarlet Knight team that has really been inconsistent for most of the year. We'll wrap up the show with some Maryland basketball talk here to end things up. The women's team for the Terps knocked off number 11 Duke yesterday in College Park, 85-80 the final score. The Lady Terps moved up to number 11 in the most recent AP poll this week. Shout out to them for beating a former ACC rival. The Maryland-Duke rivalry is among the best in college basketball. Cool to see those teams playing again, especially cool to see Maryland beat Duke, because I don't like Duke. And the men's team playing tonight against Florida A&M. Men's team is 2-0 on the year, hosting the Rattlers 0-2 on the season. That one tips off at 7. It's probably underway right now as we speak from College Park. Rodney Rice, transfer from Virginia Tech, had 28 points off the bench for the Terps in their win over Mount St. Mary's, 86-52 back on Friday night. These transfers for Maryland have looked great so far. They can finally shoot the three-pointer. Rodney Rice was amazing from beyond the arc in that win against the Mount, and that was a struggle for the men's team last year. They just could not shoot the ball from long range, but they've got some shooters this year, which is great to see. And they're going to get their real first test of the year when they host the 15th ranked team in the country, Marquette, at the Xfinity Center on Friday evening. Marquette has been a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament the last 2 years. They've got a great team. That'll be a really interesting test for Maryland going forward to see how legit they are. They've had 2 easy wins to start the year, but against a top 15 team in the country, really excited to see how the Terps fare in that one at home. That's going to do it for us for our episode today on Sports Talk at the Island Green. Special thanks, as always, to my guest, Skyler Fultz, for coming on talking some McDaniel football, as he does always. The Green Terror play Johns Hopkins, their biggest rival in the Centennial Conference. That one kicks off on Saturday at 12 noon from Gill Stadium. Also like to shout out Danielle Prietz, my guest in the second segment, head coach for Liberty High School's girls soccer team. They're playing in the state championship game this weekend. Best of luck to the Liberty Lions. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports Talk at the Island Green. Signing off from the Island Green, I'm Avery Newport saying so long. Enjoy your Monday night. Dolphins-Rams on Monday Night Football. Tune in. We'll see you next week. Good night.